What's going on, everyone? This is a new player's perspective on Bless Online, at least in the Japanese version, before the NA release happens. And I'm just going to be touching upon the performance of the game, the graphics options, and the UI options that you have. And I will say it is very limited. So to preface all of this, I do have a 1080 Ti. I'm using an i5 8600K at 5 gigahertz. And I'm also using 3200 16 gigabytes of RAM. Although I'm not sure on the timings of my RAM. So I'm sure that doesn't really have an option or a factor into this. But anyway, as you can see, top left corner of my screen right now shows my FPS as of now. And it's just really, really bad when FPS hiccups and stutters this hard. I mean, I'm not even in a crowded area. Although this is one of the main towns of the game. I can see maybe, 10 people, maybe around me. And I can only imagine what this will be like on the NA release when there's, hundreds, possibly thousands of people in this town, because this is one of the main starting towns. And you can just see me going along just a little bit of the area, and you can just tell that the frame tanks just randomly. It's pretty disheartening because the level of detail in this game is actually insane. Like, you can see the architecture and you can see the detail that they put in just this church, and that's nuts. Actually, I don't even think this is a church. I think this is the castle or the palace. But you can just you can tell how much effort they put into making this game look good. But it's just on such an old DirectX renderer that all of it kind of just goes into a moot state because of how bad the performance is. Right now, I'm just running along in the town and I'm dropping, 20 FPS randomly. I open up my map, and I think the first time you ever open up your map, you're going to drop down to like 10 FPS. Then I immediately close it and I drop 30 FPS randomly. Performance doesn't seem consistent at all. There's way too many drops, there's way too many hiccups, there's frame hitching that I've noticed before too while out in just the game world where no one else is. And there's too much problems that I think the optimizations that they planned for the NA release are not going to really affect it that much. And even on their streams too, there were maybe 3 people playing the game at that press release stream. And that's not enough to judge for a full NA release where possibly thousands of people are going to be on screen at the same time, where I can only imagine how bad the FPS will get. With that out of the way, I'm going to go over the graphic settings in the game right here. These are the default settings. You get the screen mode option, which is just your standard windowed, full screen windowed, and your actual full screen mode yourself. I'm using the English translation for the Japanese version, so I think these two options are switched, but you do have the 3 standard options as of now. Display settings are just your display ratio, resolution, and brightness. If you're using full screen windowed, which I assume most people are going to be using, your ratio and resolution are automatically set for you, but you can't change around the brightness. But I really haven't noticed a difference, other than just bumping the contrast up and down. And then you get into the advanced settings. And this is probably the most disappointing aspect of this. As a person with a 1080 Ti, I'm also pairing it with a 144Hz G-Sync monitor. And I can tell you, not having the option to uncap my goddamn frame rate and turn off VSync is so frustrating, and it's so just baffling to me that these options are not in a game that is slated for a 2018 release. Those are things that have been in the games that have been released 10 years ago by default, and for some godforsaken reason, they decided not to include this in an MMO. I'm not sure what the reasoning is, but it's a little ridiculous that standard options are not included. The advanced settings are kind of your just run-of-the-mill, texture resolution, terrain detail, stuff like that. Kind of reminds me of Terra's graphics options, where it was just really baseline, no actual freedom of choice when it comes to customizing your graphics and your detail levels. You're kind of just stuck with, basic preset-like options. Anyway, another thing I wanted to cover was the UI as well. I absolutely hate the UI in this game. I hate it. I just think it's awful. It's way too aged, and it feels aged because you can't change any of these elements on the screen that you see right now. You cannot change the minimap. Can't change, you know, if you want quests displayed or not. You can hide them, but that's pretty much it. You can't get rid of them. You can only just minimize the little windows. You can't change the locations of any of these. Can't change where your buffs are. You can't change where your debuffs are placed. Can't change any of your hotkey locations or your skills or your, you know, bar placements. Everything is static. Everything about the UI is static. You cannot change a single thing. And I think that's really disappointing because I would like to have the option to customize my screen to focus on what I want to focus on as a player instead of just having everything be where the developers think is the best place, which honestly doesn't seem like the best place because I'd rather have my buffs, you know, closer to my character so that I'm able to focus on my buffs and debuffs while I'm fighting, as well as a health bar, maybe, you know, around this area or beneath my character, instead of having everything beneath where you have to move your eyes down here and then move them back up to focus on stuff that's on the game screen. The only options you really have for customizing the UI is the extended minimap, and, you know, I just got rid of mine, so this entire menu doesn't pertain to me. Quests are the same. You can, you know, show your monster book and show level quests, but, you know, at the end game, no one's going to really do it in it, so it's whatever. That's pretty much it. That's what I wanted to cover in this video. Hopefully this answered some of your guys' questions if you had any. Thanks for watching, and good luck in the NA release.